history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Early on the morning of August the 20th, 1961, East German soldiers sealed off the line dividing the eastern sector of Berlin from the American, French and British zones in the west. Building materials were brought out of nearby warehouses and the notorious Berlin Wall began to take shape, to the great mystification of those on both sides who were soon to be out of sight of each other.
The assault has begun on the dictatorship of Fidel Castro. Cuban Army pilots opened the first phase of organized revolt with bombing raids on 3 military bases. 2 of the B-26 light bombers then seek asylum in Florida. On the heels of the air raids, landings were effected by rebels at several places on the Cuban coast, and the rebellion against the red-tinged dictator was on, with the refugee pilot claiming a full-scale army revolt near.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. One day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together.
$20 trillion. What would you do with all that money? You could pay off the national debt. You could spend $1 million a day for 2,000 years and still have trillions left. But could you end poverty in America? That was one of the goals of the Great Society, President Lyndon Johnson's ambitious plan to transform the lives of Americans. The Great Society is 50 years old. It's been a long, historic journey, but are we at the end of the road? We'll start by traveling back to 1964, when America's prosperity and potential seemed limitless. But America had troubling, age-old problems like legal discrimination and abject poverty that could no longer be tolerated in the increasingly prosperous land of the free. So, in May of 1964, President Johnson made a big announcement.
The Great Society rests on abundance and liberty for all. It demands an end to poverty and racial injustice, to which we're totally committed in our time.
LBJ decided that the government, with its vast power and the might of the national treasury, would steer us towards a better place.
The challenge of the next half century is whether we have the wisdom to use that wealth to enrich and elevate our national life and to advance the quality of our American civilization.
Johnson's plan ended the South's Jim Crow laws. No more whites-only lunch counters, colored water fountains, and sitting at the back of the bus. Landmark legislation like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the 1965 Voting Rights Act were tremendous achievements that did away with legalized racial discrimination. Today, we stand closer to being the colorblind society that Johnson envisioned. But we're still trying to level the playing field with affirmative action policies that themselves
argued that the anti-war movement played a key role in eventually forcing an end to U.S. involvement. Debate will rage for years to come over these issues. What is unquestioned, however, is the commitment of the anti-war activists and their effectiveness in changing their country's policies under the most difficult of circumstances. In the process, they helped establish a precedent that ordinary Americans could actively question their government's actions.
Poverty is not a trait of character. It is created anew in each generation, but not by heredity, by circumstances. Today, millions of American families are caught in circumstances beyond their control. Their children will be compelled to live lives of poverty unless the cycle is broken. President Johnson's war on poverty has this one goal: to provide everyone a chance to grow and make his own way, a chance at education, a chance at training, a chance at a fruitful life. For the first time in the history of America, this can be done.
Apparently, two men approached the speaker's rostrum and discharged shots at him from apparently very close range.
Yes, I turned around quickly, and the next thing I saw was Malcolm falling back in a dead faint.
I'm free at last. I'm free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.